how we did it, I need to add a big caveat at this point because we haven't quite done it yet. We focus on 3 horizons now, within the next 2 years and within 3 to 5 years. And with right here now, by the end of this year, we should start delivering in volume our first product. Over the next 18 months to 2 years, we've got 2 or 3 more products coming online. And over a 3 to 5 year horizon, we are at the moment nurturing some early stage research and development programs that will deliver over that timescale. So a little bit about Cosworth. You probably know Cosworth, the brand, from very famous DFV engine that won a lot of Formula One races through the years. The Ford Sierra Cosworth, and latterly re-entry into Formula One. Now we retain a lot of that engineering spirit, but Cosworth today is a very different beast. We're focused around 3 core competencies: mechanical engineering, innovative electronics, and precision manufacture, that's spread across currently 6 sites, soon to be a 7th, and we focus that into these markets, tier 1 automotive, racing, aftermarket, and aerospace and defense. In terms of the 6 sites that we have 3 in the US, 3 here in the UK. This site here, Northampton, which is all focused on mechanical engineering and precision manufacture. We've got a rather innovative bunch of guys based in Cambridge that focus largely on motorsport electronics, but we've managed to spin a number of those technologies into the defense sector. And precision manufacture here, and we also have a site down in Devon that focuses on smaller components. I just wanted, firstly, before going into the core competencies and the experiences that we have had directly in the defense industry, just to bring out some general points and a bit of audience participation, I think, at this point, just so I can gauge the audience. How many in the room today are directly involved, show of hands, in the motorsport industry? So roughly half, I'd say. How many are directly involved in the defense industry actively? So about a quarter. So a few guys here to learn about the defense sector, and I hope we can just bring out some of those principles. Firstly, recognize that defense has very long lead times, long development gestation periods. Motorsport, you might be looking at 1 to 2 years. You might even be looking at every few weeks between races. Automotive, generally a new platform out every 5 years. Defence, this particular vehicle here, the Scout reconnaissance vehicle for the UK MOD, I remember working on that, on the electronic architecture for that vehicle in the early 2000s. Now that won't come into service until the second half of this decade. So you're talking 12, 13, 14 years for the development of that platform. Aerospace, Tim's Dreamliner, I think that started out in 2003 as the 7E7. First deliveries to Nippon Airways in 2012. Got my facts right, great. So you're talking about, again, long gestation periods of the order of 10 years. I just wanted to point out this one here, though, which is, I haven't put a name to it, but it's urgent operational requirements, and I know the NAR group have been successful in this space, because it's an area with development times much closer to that of motorsport. I think the rule of thumb is it must be delivered once the contract's in place within a 12-month period. So it's very fast turnaround times, culturally a lot closer to the traditional motorsport industry. The second point, just to, I guess, emphasise what Tim was saying, is you've got to decide where to play. It's quite a complex supply chain. Each of those elements of the supply chain have different timelines associated with them. If you want to be a major subsystem provider, you've got to be prepared to work along those long development timeframes. I've put notionally here 3 to 12 years, and that's 3 to 12 years from the point at which you start engaging with that industry to the point at which you might see volume production. Further down the tier, so we're very focused on being a tier 1 supplier, but we recognise the timescales don't allow us to feed our business today. So we're also focused on Tier 2, and we're just starting to launch a contract design and manufacture service to formally underpin a couple of contracts that we have in that space at the moment. And then down at the Tier 3 level. So with Tier 3, you can be in and supplying within a 6 to 18 month period. You're really talking 18 months to 3 years at the contract design and manufacture phase, and as I say, up to 3 to 12 years if you're going to focus on the Tier 1. I think I'd also just like to mention the higher you go up that supply chain, the more customer knowledge you need, the more you need to understand the specific design standards of that industry. Understand that there are cultural differences, and again I use the analogy between motorsport and defence. I've used this chart before, I quite like it because I think it demonstrates the cultural differences between these two sectors. Defence, at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money, and if it's taxpayers' money, it requires an audit trail. It's also very complex pieces of equipment. That normally requires quite a robust systems engineering process to underpin it. Therefore, it's very process focused. That's, I think, in stark contrast to the motorsport industry, where it values much more that supplier end user interaction, iterative design, and it engenders a different kind of culture that's really focused on the person rather than the process. And again, that culture drives different process drivers. I like this chart because it shows quite starkly the time focus of the motorsport industry relative to the very requirements-driven approach of the defence industry. So what we tend to find in the defence world is there'll be a long period of time collecting user requirements, distilling those down into system requirements, and then after you've undertaken that, you look at the time it's going to take you to meet those requirements and the resources that are required to deliver on that. What you tend to find in the motorsport industry is it's the reverse. You know, you're going to have to, you've got a race to meet, maybe it's the first race of the season in the following season. It's time constrained, and therefore you look at what are the resources and what are the trade-offs with the requirement required to meet that timeline. First point, focus on the customer's needs. Really try to get in there, understand what makes them tick, what are the trends within that particular sector. This is an example here. So in this particular requirement, which is about a very small portable generator, there's a trend to greater demands on electrical power on the battlefield. There's a trend towards much more portability, lighter generators. There's also a specific requirement, I think largely unique to this particular sector, which is their single fuel policy that focuses on heavy fuel. So small, lightweight gasoline engines, they're not applicable to this particular sector. We engaged with a number of customers. We partnered with Rolls-Royce in this particular instance. Existing generators in this particular sector, this is a 2 kilowatt generator, they were 80 kilograms. It required 4 people to lift those generators. What they really wanted was something that was much more akin to a single man portable generator. The key stumbling block to meeting that is that the weight of current engine technology was the same as the weight of the actual generator that they were seeking to procure. So the focus had to be on reducing the size and the weight of the engine. So we were sponsored by the UK MOD, the US Department of Defence, and Rolls-Royce to develop a very small, what we think is the lightest diesel generator engine in the world. These are two of the initial prototypes. So on the left-hand side is a very small generator we delivered with Rolls-Royce to the US Department of Defence. 30 kilograms based around a very small diesel generator, diesel engine. And on the right-hand side is trials with the Trials and Development Unit of the British Army down in Long Valley, just outside Aldershot, which was our first prototype, which is actually sitting over there if you wanted to have a look. Second point, assess your own internal capabilities. Now, I mean, capabilities, not product. It's very rare that I think you'll find a box, a product that will move and transition directly from, say, the motorsport industry into the defence or aerospace sector. Particular challenge here was the emerging UAV sector. Within that community, they've traditionally used gasoline engines derived from hobbyist or lawnmower engines. As the UAV sector became more established, these are high-value platforms. They didn't want gasoline engines supporting those because, again, they have a single fuel policy that orientates around heavy fuel. So we saw an opportunity there. We do lightweight, power-dense engines, very targeted durability. We built a prototype. We spoke to the US Department of Defense. They sponsored us. We won a competition of 50 companies that were down selected to 3, then 1. We were sponsored by the US Department of Defense to develop a very small 2-stroke, 2-cylinder diesel engine that would go into these platforms. That last picture there is us integrating it into the T-20 Arcturus platform, which we then flew at NASA's Dryden Air Force Base in California. Third point, join up your internal capabilities. I mentioned earlier that Cosworth has a number of companies to a certain extent that have been brought together into this group. A lot which you won't know about, which is our electronics capability in Cambridge, where we develop engine management systems. We have obviously a lot of test facilities, a lot of mechanical engineering expertise here in Northampton. We saw a particular challenge that the MOD was grappling with now, but will become more important as the years go by, to reduce their dependence on fossil fuel. We proposed an idea which was based around using our adaptable engine management systems and our mechanical engineering competence here in Northampton to optimize the fuel use of these military vehicles. They traditionally use engines derived from generator sets or used for a number of different applications, agricultural. They're not optimized for the battlefield missions of the UK MOD. We proposed that idea. We've been sponsored. We've been through a concept demonstrator. We're now onto a technology demonstrator phase. We're trialing the technology currently. We've got the vehicles, I believe, 2 on site here today. We might be able to get one outside for you to have a look at. This is just a demonstrator platform for us. We're looking at rolling this particular technology out across all UK MOD military vehicles. Partner for success. If you don't have the capabilities to meet a requirement, look around you. There's probably people, there will be people capable of supporting your entry into a certain sector. You won't be aware of it necessarily, but we've done for the last 10 years lightweight electronics and wearable electronics for the British Olympic Association. We've been doing it, integrating it into driver performance and integrated into the car for physiological monitoring. We've also been integrating it into the leathers for motorcycle riders in motorsport. We transitioned that technology into the defence arena in around, I think it was 2011, back end of 2011, where we undertook what was called the Man-Worn Power and Data System Phase 1. We're currently tendering for the second phase of that with these as our partners. So Thales are currently the leading supplier of soldier systems in the UK MOD. We've got them to come into a consortia with us. CQC are the current providers of body armour, the load carriage system for the British Army. They're supporting us. Panisys are providers of battery technology and battery scavenging. And SEA are really systems engineers that really allow us to understand the human factors element of pulling this system together. Now we hope to hear some good news on that at the moment, but the key message really is that if you don't have the experience in-house, don't be afraid to partner. And finally, get inspired. This is the innovation strategy. I want to give a big shout to the Centre of Defence Enterprise. 75% of the programs that we're now working on originated with either a small business innovation research grant or through the Centre of Defence Enterprise of the UK MOD. If you've got a technology or even just an idea that you wish to test, we've found this a great portal to be able to explore that. So I really endorse this approach. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening.